Hey guys, and welcome back to our continuing series on the Psycho River Killer. Today we're going to go over her past marriages. We're not even talking about her past relationships that we know of, but just the actual marriages. Apparently, of the marriages that we do know of, Eun-hae, the girl that is being held right now for questioning for the potential drowning of her latest husband, all in a bid for life insurance money and his assets, got married 4 times in the course of her 20s. So we're gonna go over that. Marriage number 1, early 2010. Now, this may or may not be the father of her baby. We're not exactly sure, because just because there is the timing of the marriage, it doesn't necessarily mean that was the only guy she was with. Apparently, throughout this whole process, we're seeing a pattern of her meeting different guys at the same time and kind of like promising herself to them. If you haven't seen the Secrets of the Room Salon Girl video, that sort of outlines how this strategy takes place, where these girls meet the guys at the room salon while they're working, and then they say like, oh, you know, like I'm just here because of circumstances and I really want to get married or whatnot. They find these guys that really get smitten by them. So early 2010 is apparently the record of her first marriage. She has a baby in January of 2011, so that's why people are thinking this may or may not be the father. This baby was eventually officially adopted by Yoon Sang-yeop, the final husband that died recently that we're looking at this whole case because of. And apparently she is being accused by investigators of demanding that this baby be adopted by Yoon in order for all of the assets, including the life insurance, including the apartment deposit, including everything, so that it would go to her and the baby alone. If she didn't have the baby registered as one of Yoon's official kids, then the assets upon his death would be split up between her as the wife and his parents. But because there is a child, she was able to cut the parents out of that whole equation. The parents said that they did not even know that Yoon had adopted her daughter until the funeral, you know, when everything starts to come out. And they said that not only that, the behavior of Eun-hae during her husband's funeral was super sus. Apparently she showed no remorse. She was just outside with her friends most of the time, playing video games on her smartphone and smoking. And so this brought up a lot of suspicions with the family. Now, we are at, in this point of the timeline, January 2011, right, when she had the baby. Well, apparently that marriage didn't work out, and she met Yoon for the first time in 2012. Now, Yoon, the husband that drowned in the river, said to his family that he had met her through work. Now, they checked up on that, and there's no record of her ever working at the same company or even in like the same industry. And so most likely we know what's going on and where he actually met her. So he met her for a while, and they had been so-called dating until they got married officially in 2017, but soft officially in 2016, which we'll go over. And so he's been kind of, you know, painted as like this unfortunate guy who had a decent job, who was able to work really hard and save his money, but then have this girl really take advantage of him. And he worked as a researcher at a arm of a conglomerate, and he earned what is considered in Korea a pretty decent salary, which is about 65 million won or $60,000. So people were very shocked that he did not even have like $3 to go to the convenience store to buy ramen and bottled water. He had to borrow $3 from a friend. They were like, oh, well, this doesn't make sense. Like, because Korean people are always talking about like their business or trying to get into your business, and they knew how much money he supposedly had saved up. They knew how much money he made, and they're just like, this is kind of weird. All right, let's get back to our Black Widow. Her marriage number 2 was in November 2015, and this guy was also smitten with her and wanted to get married. But even before the marriage, the friends and family said that there's something a little bit off about her. And they went through with the wedding anyway, but they did see with their own eyes even more really weird behavior at the wedding, and it was later confirmed by a private investigator that the groom's family had hired. Apparently, our Black Widow had hired fake parents to get married, and apparently they were like, yeah, they're not even acting really well. Like, there's something a little bit off about like how they're even acting. And yes, right, you've seen that in Korean dramas. Do people actually hire fake family to appear at the wedding? Fake friends to appear at the wedding? Yeah, well, apparently yes, she did, even back in November 2015. And the amount of money that maybe she paid these people was not like for the best actors or whatnot, because apparently some of her so-called friends showed up in like t-shirts, and you're not supposed to ever do that at a wedding in Korea. You don't have to like come out dressed to the nines, but nobody just comes up in t-shirts. And then they said like, oh, we could see like all their tattoos and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with tattoos, but in Korea, it is more associated with people who work in the underworld. Not everybody these days. These days has become a lot more trendy and more popular, and normal people can get tattoos, but definitely for the older generation, and I would say among the crowd that does get tattoos, like, it's not like total fiction with that sort of assumption, but you can't always assume. And yeah, so the family was really turned off by that, and I guess that's why they hired the private investigator that confirmed that this girl was all lies, and she didn't contribute at all to the wedding. And in Korea, both families these days contribute, trying to, when you calculate it at the end of the day, you're supposed to kind of be 50-50. Before, it was like the bride that was supposed to pay for the wedding, and then the guy was supposed to be responsible to get the house and like furnish it and whatnot, but she didn't do anything. And in Korea, when you get married, you invite your friends, families, colleagues, everybody, the second chicken down the road to come, because they're supposed to all give you like a cash gift in an envelope, and that's supposed to pay for the wedding and then also leave you with a little bit of something after all of the costs of the wedding have been, defrayed. But apparently, she didn't pay for a thing at all, and she's being accused at least one of these weddings she walked off with about $10,000 in cash. And so it could also be another strategy to raise a lot of cash by trying to get married multiple times. So that didn't work out. The family annulled that marriage. So now we're at marriage number 3, which is May 2016. And this is where it gets really, really shady. So May 2016, she went before this to a former boyfriend with the daughter and said that this is your kid. This is your kid. I didn't tell you, but this is your kid. And, we should get married. And the guy was like, oh, yeah, well, maybe we should get married. So they decided to get married at like a restaurant or something. But I don't even know if it's a restaurant, because some of the pictures that you see, like you see the sign, it looked like more like a cafe, because I don't know, there's like Americanos or something on the menu, espressos or cappuccinos. But anyways, they got married at a restaurant in Incheon. And apparently they even hired a famous singer to do a performance that is kind of popular here in Korea to do if you have some sort of, connections into that. But during the wedding, apparently the groom got a phone call from a dude saying like, look dude, I can't believe you're marrying this girl. Like, I've been living with this girl. Like, basically she's my girlfriend. And so the groom and the family apparently confronted Eun-hae and were obviously upset. And the way that it's being reported is that she fled the wedding as soon as it was over, or like basically like right before it had completely finished. And so of course that marriage didn't work out. Now the super shady thing was, a few months later, 4 months later, like September of 2016 or October 2016, that's when Yoon, the guy who drowned in the river, and Eun-hae signed a lease for their newlywed apartment. So it's kind of like the cart before the horse. They didn't really do a marriage, but they basically got their marriage house. And this was the apartment that Yoon paid for, but never lived in because, you know, he had to live in that little basement near his work. And then she got to live there with her friends for just a little bit of time. And so they got that apartment in 2016. Now, where we're at with the fourth marriage was that officially in Korea, they got married in March of 2017. So you see this, you know, like May 2016, it's not even been like 9 or 10 months, and then she's officially married to some other guy, Yoon. And that was March 2017, and that was registered in Korea. The reason I bring that up is that they actually got registered apparently about 6 months ago, probably around the time when they got the apartment together, on an overseas trip to like Las Vegas. And he said like, oh, I want to get registered in America because if I officially have a Korean registered marriage, I'm going to lose out on some government benefits. Apparently, I guess she was still receiving some government benefits, maybe because her parents were disabled. I forget why exactly. But she said that she didn't want to risk giving that up. Now, so that's why they had their wedding registered in America, according to her. It's probably also convenient for her because she can probably like marry some other guys too. But this is the time when I think she's starting to cook up, let's try this life insurance scam thing. And so when she was registering as the wife for a lot of these Korean insurance policies, they wouldn't accept her as the official legal spouse if they didn't have their wedding registered in Korea. So she was sort of backed into a corner. So that's why they were registered in March of 2017. And then so we got to see, remember the first instance of her then trying to pull some scam, you know, later on that year with like puncturing the tire of her husband's car. And so there's like all sorts of shadiness going on with this, because she has been officially married for about 4 times, like in terms of like doing like the wedding process. They're saying that the one where she kind of fled, you know, they didn't really like officially register that, so that's kind of like iffy, like does that really count? But she put on the wedding dress, she went down the aisle, they rented out the venue, and they rented out that wedding singer. And so it shows a pattern. So for those of you who've been wondering, like, okay, like what does the pattern and history show? It shows that this girl either is real lovesick or definitely has black shadow tendencies. What do you guys think? We'll go over some of her other relationships that weren't officially marriages, but then also involves some corpses. So stay tuned. Remember to comment below and like, share, and subscribe. See you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.